everywhere. All right. Well, it is definitely time to get started. So it is my pleasure to introduce everyone to our session for this afternoon with Cornell University. Cornell's Enterprise Preference Center is a centralized platform that empowers recipients to manage their university's email communications in one place. Built to support a wide range of audiences and teams, EPC for short, enhances user experience, ensures compliance, and streamlines operations. With a complex but scalable design, it lays the foundation for smarter, more unified engagement across Cornell. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today. Vicky, it is my pleasure to turn this over to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. And I know it's late in the day, but I am hopeful. I don't know how many people are on this session right here, but I'm hoping that you people on the East Coast are hanging in there past 4:30, and those on the West Coast, well, it's still working hours. So our presentation from chaos to clarity, the Enterprise Preference Center journey. If we can go to the next slide. Flo did a good job of already introducing that. Just a real quick introduction. I'm Vicky Mikula. I actually sit on the Higher Ed Advisory Council. Proud to be a member there. Wish I was with everybody in person down in Phoenix. I'm the Assistant Director for Enterprise Applications within Central IT, and Salesforce is one of the enterprise apps that falls within my portfolio. Rachel?
Hi, everyone. Rachel Potter. I am an IT project manager at Cornell in Central IT.
Hi, Alina here. Yeah, Alina here. I'm the Marketing Cloud admin, and I've been helping Cornell to roll out Marketing Cloud across campuses and was able to work on this project from the beginning. So happy to share some of our learnings with you.
Wonderful. Great. Thanks, Alina. All right, let's kick it off here. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And we're very excited to share what we call our Centralized Enterprise Preference Center. Short, we call it EPC. And it's specifically for Marketing Cloud. And so this has been a real key initiative for us to improve how we manage communication preferences across campus. And I'm going to do a brief introduction, but you're going to hear from our dynamic project manager, Rachel, and our brilliant Marketing Cloud lead, Alina. They're going to walk you through the actual project details and technical design. They were very, very core to this implementation. And so they're going to share everything that they've learned. But before we do that deep dive, I just want to set the stage. So we launched Marketing Cloud for our university relations in January 2023 and for alumni affairs in June of 2023. And since then, we've onboarded additional units like human resources and student and campus life. And now we're in a phase of the project where we're rolling it out across campus communication teams. But after we launched, early on, we faced several challenges that were related to preference management. And so we set out to define those challenges. So we found that, Lena, you can go ahead and click. So we found that our approach for managing preferences across multiple units just wasn't sustainable at scale. I mean, the process was fragmented. It required manual work. It was difficult to manage. It was confusing for our users. And really importantly, it was introducing compliance risks, especially like with CAN-SPAM laws and such. So we outlined those challenges and came to understand them. And then we set out to define a vision to address those challenges. So in that vision, we decided we wanted to make sure that we had something that scaled effectively across campus. We wanted it to be dynamic and adaptable. We really wanted it to have be a self-service platform for our users. Really important to us was user experience. And then because we're a very small and lean team, by the way, Alina is our Marketing Cloud lead and our only Marketing Cloud resource. So we really needed to reduce manual overhead. So since launching our EPC solution, the results have been really positive. We've eliminated that fragmentation. We've reduced our compliance risks, and we've delivered a seamless, positive self-service experience, all while reducing that manual effort. So with that, let's dive into the details. Rachel, over to you.
Thanks. So hi, everyone. I'm going to talk to you about the project management side briefly, and then I'll turn it over to Alina to talk technical details. So in terms of where this fits in, I just wanted to show the breadth of the Marketing Cloud program and give a sense of where Enterprise Preference Center EPC fits. So like Vicky said, we had a few implementation phases before we launched EPC to get our early adopters on the tool. And so when we set this out, we already had the tool in place, and we needed to build a tool for enterprise preference management to accommodate dozens of teams that would eventually be using Marketing Cloud, and needed to be scalable but flexible. So now I'll talk to you about the project formation and approach. So we formed a working group of 21 individuals. Believe it or not, that was us being very lean. We wanted the group to have cross-campus representation, and so we included some of our earlier adopters, but we also included some folks who weren't yet on Marketing Cloud, which was kind of weird for them, but they were more than happy to be part of the conversations. This is the group that gave us business requirements for what we would eventually set out to accomplish. And with that group being in place and understanding the must-have, should-have, and nice-to-have functionality, we set out to understand if we needed to build something or if we could buy something. We interviewed a lot of schools. I think we talked to like 8 to 12 different schools to understand their preference situations, and we evaluated tools on the marketplace, and there was nothing that met our requirements at the time. So we decided to build a solution. And with that being said, we also needed a vendor to help us with this, and we needed a partner who understood our mission and was willing to push boundaries with us, because if it didn't exist on the marketplace, then we were building something that was new. And so we needed someone who understood that assignment, and we were happy to partner with Tandro, who had been a great partner in the past and understood what we were setting out to build. So once we had Tandro up and running, we had our full project team and we dove into the details. And so first we started with design, and based on the business requirements, we brought in some UX expertise and they did some market research. Like I said, we interviewed some peer schools, and with a lot of hopes and dreams, we came up with some detailed wireframes, and that's what you're seeing there on the left side. Once we had that, then we went into the refine stage, and the mockups were refined collaboratively with the project team and with our stakeholders and with Tandro, because we wanted to make sure that what we were envisioning was not only possible, but scalable and sustainable. Once that was agreed upon by everyone, we went into the build phase, and we developed custom user interface, sign-up pages, codes, objects, all that kind of stuff that Alina is going to talk to you about. Once we were done with the build phase, we went into testing, and we involved a lot of different folks in this phase. And we engaged real employees, real students, and real alumni for user testing. We had about 5 from each one of those populations to make sure that what we were building, again, was something that our communities understood. And like Vicky had said, we put user experience at the forefront. Once everything was tested, we moved ahead with approval, which included 3 layers of stakeholders, about 35 folks. We had a go live plan put in place, and we scheduled that for over a weekend during a time that was not during the busy season for communications. The user interface went pretty well with the go live. We did encounter some issues with migrating the data, which we'll talk about later. But once that was all up and running, then we went into stabilization, and Tandro provided some really great hypercare following go live. They also provided some detailed documentation and knowledge transfer sessions. And obviously, once we were through with stabilization, we moved toward closeout, and we celebrated this achievement a lot. We announced the achievement with our internal communities. And this achievement also marked the beginning of us being able to roll out Marketing Cloud to campus. So we didn't want to continue with our different fragmented approaches for preference management, like Vicky had mentioned with rollout. So this was a key piece of us having this tool in place before rolling out Marketing Cloud to campuses. So this was a really big milestone once we reached it. All right, and I think I'll turn it over to you, Alina.
Yeah, thank you. So now I want to show you how the actual Enterprise Preference Center looks like, and also talk about sort of the behind the scenes solution that was built in collaboration with our partner, Tundra. And as Rachel mentioned, the EPC is such an important component of the overall Marketing Cloud project. We had a lot of different solutions in place for the single purpose of allowing subscribe and unsubscribe functionalities. So we really needed something that would unify all those solutions, and it would be scalable so we could add new groups to Marketing Cloud. So let's see how it works. Like all emails that go out from our Marketing Cloud instance has this standard footer at the bottom with a link to manage your subscriptions. So after you click this link, then you will land in our Enterprise Preference Center page, and this is the mobile version of the page. And as we have told you, this is a unified solution, so it hosts a considerable amount of email preferences. And I would say that was very challenging for our UI team to build a layout that could host all of these preferences, but at the same time be easy to use and to navigate even in these small screens devices. So now I would like to show you the desktop version of the Enterprise Preference Center. And here I would like to show some of the functionalities that were really carefully crafted, because when people click these manage your subscriptions links in your emails, they're probably feeling saturated and overwhelmed. And we really wanted to offer the best experience possible to have them feel that they had control over all the things that they can receive from the university. So, as I mentioned, since we had so many preferences and mailings to show, the team decided to group them into these collapsible groups to make the page look like less busy and easy to scan. They also decided to go with these toggles to unsubscribe and subscribe. And I think it was a great decision. I really like how they look because it kind of gives you an instant feedback on what your status is and how you switch from subscribe to unsubscribe. And it works very well on mobile, so it's a win-win. Something else that we carefully decided was the two tabs at the top of the page that say all subscription versus my subscriptions. So right now we are in the all subscriptions section of the page. That means that we can see all mailings, those that you are subscribed to receive, but also those that you are eligible to subscribe to, even if you are not currently receiving them. But then if you switch to my subscriptions only, that would show only those newsletters that you are currently receiving in your inbox and you are subscribed to receive. So something else that we added was a search functionality. So if you look at the top of the page and you click search, you will be able to expand the search functionalities. And here, like if you're in an exploration mode and you want to find more things about certain topics, you can search by keywords, by categories, or tags. And then something else that was very important for us was making the unsubscribe process an easy process so that there was no frustration. So we included different levels of unsubscribe. So as I show you, we have these toggles that allows you to unsubscribe from individual mailings. But we also have what we call a group unsubscribe. So if you click this one, you will be able to unsubscribe from all email preferences within this group. And then at the top, then we have the global unsubscribe that allows you to unsubscribe from everything, every single page and preference that you see within the Enterprise Preference Center. And I think that one of the greatest things, at least from my opinion, is that the page is completely dynamic. So that means that different persons would see a different package of mailings and subscriptions. For example, a student, based on the CRM data, the page look at the attributes of the contacts, and it would show a different package for each student. And this is just for the sake of showing how it works. It doesn't mean that this is exactly our logic, but a student could see like a three groups of preferences versus an employee, for example, that might be able to see a group of mailings from human resources, or if that employee happens to be a parent of a Cornell student, might be able to see a group of mailings from the Cornell families, for example. And this is sort of kind of the user-facing solution where users can see, but there are a lot of other components that were built in order to make this happen. So I would like to kind of guide you through this backstage solution of the EPC. And for the design, our partner decided to use both Salesforce CRM and Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And we sort of part from the principle that CRM is our source of truth. So in our regular business processes, all contacts go to the CRM, and then they flow to Marketing Cloud and are distributed across all business units. So our email preferences are also stored in the contact record in the CRM, and they are stored in a couple of fields that have a JSON screen. And this is such an enhancement compared to what we had before, because we used to have a lot of checkboxes and multi-pick lists in the contact record that made our page layout pretty crowded just to define what subscriptions each contact could see. But now within a couple of fields, we can determine what are the mailings that contact should be receiving. So we have one JSON field for the group that would tell us whether the person is subscribed and able to see one of these collapsible groups. And then we have an email preference JSON that would go granular to the individual email preferences that each person could see. And what happens is that this JSON information and subscription preferences are also in Marketing Cloud in data extensions, and they are synchronized real time between both systems. So we have what we call a master segment data extension in Marketing Cloud that has all contacts. And then it would have a new field that's a Boolean field for each of the mailings that we have. If that field is equals true, that would indicate that that person is subscribed. And that's what we use to sort of create our segments and also distribute the contacts across the business unit. Because if someone is subscribed to your mailings, then you are the only one that should be able to see this contact, versus you don't need access to those that are not subscribed to your communications. And the way this synchronization happens is through cloud pages. We have what we call handle pages that are not visible for the users. And these are the ones that gets the call outs either from Salesforce or the preference center and sign up pages. And they process this information, prepare the JSON payload and send it to the right instance, either if it's Salesforce CRM, the contact record, or the data extensions and publication list that we have in Marketing Cloud. So sort of a wrap up, in Marketing Cloud, we have cloud pages, we have the handle pages, and those user-facing pages like the EPC page that I showed you earlier, and the sign-up pages that I will be showing you after. We have data extensions and publication lists. And then if we go up to Salesforce, well, we have a lot of different components. We have Apex triggers and classes. We have custom objects to store the email preferences. We have flows. We have data integrations to our source systems. And this is kind of how the information and contact attributes are injected into the contact and other objects. And since everything needs to go through Salesforce, we also have what we call Contact Upload Utility. And this is a tool that our communicators and marketers use a lot because it allows them to load like ad hoc lists from an event, for example, and it also allows them to subscribe this list of people to any preferences and newsletter that we have in the system. And then something else that we are really grateful for is the admin tools our partner built for us. And I will just go to show you some of these tools that we have in the back end. So we have an admin, EPC admin. And when we open this one, we have a lot of different options. So we could either go to any contact tracker, like this one, for example. And what we have here is a manage group tab, which is a lighting web component that basically translate the information that we have in the JSON into this like easy to use interface so that any Salesforce user can go, like if they receive a complaint or someone that wants to be subscribed and need help, they can come here and just edit this individual email preferences for each of them. We also have a couple of tools to edit the actual emails, preferences, the newsletter. This is how we add a new newsletter. We add the name, the description. We assign the collapsible group that will be part of this communication. And then we have even the categories and tags that could be used to search for this communication in the EPC page. So we also have the same thing for the groups. And we have something that's pretty great. And this is where all this automation and dynamic things happened through the tool that we call group configuration. And here we set up rules so that we could determine based on the contact attributes who is able to see each of these collapsible groups. And even we have some automated subscription functionalities so that you not only see the group, but you are actually subscribed to one of these mailings. And we use this very carefully because we want to comply with all regulations. But we have a couple of use cases like a new hire newsletter, for example. Every time we get a new employee and the hire day of that employee is a recent hire day, then that person is automatically subscribed to the HR new hires newsletter. And this is the tool that allows us to do all of these things. And then the other component that I would like to show you is the sign-up pages. So we have the sign-up pages that are completely dynamic, and it allows us to create them like in a few minutes. So these pages have a standard layout, and all our groups agree to use the same layout. And they encourage people to use the Cornell Net ID to log in to sign up. So we have a real-time validation to make sure that the net ID that you are providing is a valid net ID, and it will give you instant feedback on that. But if you do not have a net ID, you could also click no, and then it will ask you for your name and email address so that you can sign up for the communication. So after you go through the entire process and you submit the sign up, the form, then we have a double opt-in process just to make sure that no one can subscribe on your behalf, especially when we are using net IDs. So you receive an email confirmation with a link to confirm that you really want to subscribe to receive those mailings. And only after that second step happens, you're actually available to be targeted by one of the communications in Marketing Cloud. And the next thing that it's really great on the sign-up pages, as I mentioned, is that it's completely dynamic. So we have this standard layout. We have only one cloud page for the layout. And then we are using URL parameters so that the page know what's the information that it needs to show. So we have a page ID parameter. This is a sample for our Cornell Chronicle newsletter. And then what we have in the backend is a data extension in Marketing Cloud. So in the Marketing Cloud data extension, we also have a page ID, and that's what relates to the URL parameter and what tells the page what's the information that will be displayed. In this data extension, we add the preferences that will be listed in the page. And here we could do even collaboration between groups, because if we are like in an event or something, two groups can collaborate and create a custom page with email preferences from both places. So it's very flexible. And then we have images that you can easily host in Marketing Cloud and use to customize the banner and the logo that we have. We have content blocks with the text in case you want to customize the introduction in the page. You can do so just by editing a content block in Marketing Cloud. And even the fields of the information that we are requesting, like email, last name, and first name, are fields, columns in the data extension. So if you put true on one of those, it means that that information will be requested on the page. And we have a different set of data that our users can add to the sign-up pages depending on the business needs that they have. But this was definitely a before and after for us, because previously it was time consuming to build one of these pages. And right now, like within a couple of minutes, just adding a new row in a data extension, I can quickly create a new sign up page. And this is something that we constantly, a request that we get very often. So it's really facilitating our processes. So, kind of wrapping up my thought, I would say that it was a long project. It was very intense. It has a lot of functionality, and it took a lot of time. But now that it is live, we are seeing a lot of benefits, and not only on the user experience side, which is definitely, we have a lot of enhancements in that side, but we also see a lot of operational efficiency, because we're a very small team, as Vicky said. And now we can, with all these automated tools in our hands, we can quickly deliver what our people and groups need very quickly. But well, all roads are not perfect. So we had bumps and turns, and those kind of are we lost moments, because like who hasn't had one of those, right? So I kind of want to show you some of the major challenges that we have. And the migration process was one of them. As I mentioned, we had a lot of different solutions, and translating that into a standard JSON string and also different levels of unsubscribe was very challenging and error prone. So we had to do a lot of entries to make sure that the data was accurate. There was also a batch job in Salesforce that was a very important component of the solution, and it was working perfectly in the sandbox. And then after we migrated to production, it was running really, really slowly. And that was a huge challenge, but our partner was able to find the solution and have it working in like a fashion manner. So, and I would say that lastly, the other major challenge that I would mention is related to unsubscribe functionalities. And I think that especially because we found this challenge in the middle of the project. We were even testing some of the functionalities when we realized that we were impacted by this one-click unsubscribe. And the issue was that all emails that go out from Marketing Cloud, all commercial emails, have a list unsubscribe in the header. And there are some email providers that use that to provide this one-click unsubscribes even without opening the email. So we found that a lot of people were using that. And since we were not using publication lists, we were having a lot of unintended global unsubscribes. And that was a huge issue. So we had to go back to our partner. They were flexible enough to find a solution for us. So we included publication lists into our regular processes of sending emails. And we have seen, I think it was very a major change at that point, but we have seen the benefits. I was running some metrics, and after we launched the APC, we see a decrease of 50% in global unsubscribes. So I would say that that was a huge success for us. And now we'll pass it to Rachel to keep talking about some challenges from the project management perspective.
All right, so I'm going to talk about scope changes first. So We had a few different scope changes throughout this project. The one on the bottom, the publication list, that's what Alina just talked about, so I won't touch on that too much. But we did find that during testing, it ended up being a big change. The sign up functionality, that was one of the things we had scoped this as part of the project, but when we originally scoped it, we didn't know what we didn't know. And so once we actually got into this, we realized that we wanted this to be a very robust process. You saw with the sign up pages and then the double opt in. So we ended up doing a scope change to add more time and functionality to that. And then we also had a scope change to add automated subscription logic. And all those we didn't anticipate, but the big one was the publication lists. So in terms of challenges from a project management point of view, I think the biggest one was resourcing. I think this is a topic of conversation probably all of us are dealing with right now. But there were our BA retired shortly after the project. I think it was right when we got into testing, we had a retirement. We had 2 key subject matter experts who went out on medical leave at the same time, general staff transitions. And we also had 2 key leadership changes of the project during 2 key leadership project changes. And so all of that was just shook things up a little bit along the way. The schedule, so between the scope changes and we needed extra QA time, the schedule ended up doubling. We originally scheduled this for 9 months. It ended up being 18 months for one thing or another. And then between resourcing, schedule, scope change, I think one of the last challenge here I have laid out is project fatigue. I think all of those things combined just led to a lot of project fatigue at the end. And a lot of that is natural, but with this project, it was really challenging. And it was during a tough time. So I think all of those added up at the end. So all of this to talk about lessons learned. And these are just a few key takeaways from the team's point of view. So early alignment on expectations. One thing I didn't mention early on that I'll mention here is when we started this project, we didn't know if it was possible, right? We hadn't seen anybody else do this. And so we were setting out to do something that we thought was possible. We had a dream, but we weren't really sure. And so early alignment on that particular piece and just understanding what the risks are, what the challenges are, what the goals are, alignment on that early and often is a key takeaway for this project. I think it's something that we did pretty well with on this project, but I think for anyone else setting out on a project like this, that is something I would recommend time and time and time again. Too much communication is better than not enough in this situation. A committed team. So I talked about project fatigue and limited resources, but even with all of that happening, we had a very committed team, and I think that was one of the keys to success here. Not only on the Cornell side, but also on the vendor side. Tandra was a great partner who understood the challenges and the risks through this. And with all the scope changes, I mean, there was project fatigue on our side. I imagine there was some on their side too, but they were incredibly committed to our vision through the whole process. And so that was a key to success. Robust QA and contingency. Like I said, we doubled our timeline here. That was more than we had bargained for when we started this project. And so I would say if you're setting out on a project like this, estimate so much higher than you need to. In our original projections, I had put 20% in contingency for the timeline, and it wasn't enough just because this was such a big project and we didn't know going into it. And then the last one, clear data migration strategy. Alina talked about some of the data migration challenges that we had. And so I think one of our lessons learned is just be over diligent with that. And so I would recommend that to anyone else setting out on a project like this. And with that, we'll open it to question and answers. And we also have a fun activity where if you actually want to try out the Enterprise Preference Center, you can scan this QR code and sign up, and it will send the PDF of the slides to your email instantly.
Great. Thank you, Alina and Rachel. And if you remember, I started this by saying our dynamic project manager and our brilliant marketing cloud lead. If that didn't tell you or show you that they did a great job on the day-to-day management of this project, I don't know what does. This is, I mean, I just feel like I have to clap here. And I've seen this a million times and have been part of the project, but I'm so so extremely proud of the work that our team, and it's more than just Alina. This was a team, a very large team from a technical perspective to make this happen. And but they did a fantastic job. So I've been trying to answer questions as we move along. But Alina, maybe this one is for you. How did we handle those unintentional global opt-outs? Any personal outreach, or did we wait for them to inquire why they no longer received a certain communication series?
Yeah, so unfortunately, after they unsubscribe, we kind of need to comply with the regulations. So we cannot reach out to that person again unless they call us and tell us that they are not receiving communication, which have happened. And that's when we fix it. So what we fixed was the solutions that doesn't happen anymore. But those that are already globally unsubscribed, we just cannot reach out to them because we don't have their consent to do it, and we don't know if it was by mistake or no. So we have to comply with that.
And I'll add to that too. When we discovered this, or when Alina discovered this, it was, I think I felt my stomach drop. And so in light of communications and keeping our stakeholders in the loop, we did communicate this to the team like immediately so that they understood, and so if they saw any change in their metrics.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
if they did any one-on-one communication, that was on them on the business side.
it was a big conversation. It was a big find. And everyone had to scurry. And as Alina said, the team moved really, really fast on that. And it was out of our control, right? It was, Google, one click, unsubscribe. Who would have thought, right? Alina, there's I think I might be able to answer this one, but I'm gonna have you considered a commercial message send that you don't let folks opt out of? I don't think that's even possible.
Yeah.
I think if it's labeled as commercial, you have to provide, it automatically provides the unsubscribe functionality. Is that accurate, Alina?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, like Salesforce won't even let you send an email without the link in the footer, right?
Right. Right. So no, we haven't considered that, and trying to keep it very, very black and white. Either it's transactional, it's commercial. If it's commercial, you have to provide that functionality. If it's transactional, then you don't. We try to keep it just in those two buckets, and so far so good. Any other questions?
Most of all, I just want to say thank you, the three of you. What a powerhouse. Vicky, I have to say, I'm a little jealous. I
Yeah,
gotta say that. Just a little jealous.
you are not
But
allowed to talk to Alina. I know you live in the same city, but you are not allowed. As Alina should never have told you where she lives.
Florence, I'm fair game though.
It's all in collaboration. That's all it will be is conversations. And I love that you shared your story and really shared under the hood what it took, the lessons learned, which are what I find the most valuable, especially how long a project actually takes, and these scope changes and unexpected changes within your organization really have an impact. Great job to all of you. Thank you everyone for posting in the Q&A. We'll get these shared back with the Cornell team and see if there's a way if we can get the rest of the answers to you. We're at time for our session, so please join us in the very last session of the day. It's our celebration. We'll see you there in just